Today, we are conducting a forensic audit on the global defense supply chain. First, we'll analyze Donald Trump's claim of unlimited munition stockpiles and the conflicting data from NATO military experts who warn that interceptor stocks are reaching a critical breaking point. Second, we will look at the siphon effect, how the war in Iran is draining the Patriot missiles and air defense assets originally earmarked for Ukraine. And finally, we'll examine the nuclear dividend, why Russia is currently the only silent winner of the Middle East conflict as oil prices fund Putin's war machine. I'm Camilo Motato, reporting for Thu News. As a certified public accountant, I deal with inventory obsolescence and supply chain lead times. In a warehouse, you can say your stock is unlimited, but if your lead time to replace a high-end component is 24 months, your operations are at risk of a total shutdown. Today, we are auditing the Pentagon's warehouse. President Trump claims he can fight forever wars with virtually unlimited weapons. But as a CPA, I'm looking at the production capacity of contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. The numbers tell a very different story than the Truth Social posts. The news this week centered on Trump's latest boast. He claims U.S. munitions are at their highest levels ever, and that he has an unlimited supply of interceptors. He even took the opportunity to insult President Zelensky again, calling him a 19th century circus promoter for asking for more aid. From a revenue audit perspective, this is a lifeline for the Russian state budget. Last year, Putin was under pressure due to declining oil revenues. Today, thanks to the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, he has breathing space. The higher the oil price, the more cash Putin has to fund his maximalist aims in Ukraine. And here is the irony. The Trump administration is leaning on India to stop buying Russian crude, but the West will likely turn a blind eye if prices get too high. Why? Because Trump cannot afford $5 gas in an election year. Putin knows this. He knows that in this unpredictable world, his nuclear deterrent protects him from the impunity the US is showing in Iran, while his oil revenue grows because of the very chaos Trump is creating. Journalist Van Jones recently argued that World War III has already begun, describing it as a gray war of algorithms and division. But as a technical auditor, I find that analysis too simplistic. We aren't in a unified world war yet. We are in a period of strategic disorder. Russia and China are not coming to Iran's rescue. They are staying on the sidelines, letting Iran absorb the hits while they reap the economic benefits of high energy prices. They aren't in an axis of evil alliance. They are in a marriage of convenience, where everyone is hedging their bets. The real risk isn't a global front, it's the bandwidth collapse of the United States. If Washington is consumed by the Middle East, they lose the ability to pressure Russia in Geneva or China in the Pacific. Let's look at the language coming out of the White House. President Trump didn't just criticize the cost of the Ukraine war. He called President Zelensky a P.T. Barnum. For those who don't know the reference, Barnum was a 19th century circus promoter known for hoaxes and selling the crowd. As a professional, I look at this as an impairment of goodwill. In international relations, the goodwill of an ally is an intangible but vital asset. By labeling a wartime leader as a showman after the U.S. spent hundreds of billions supporting his defense, Trump is effectively writing off that investment. But there is a massive contradiction here. Trump is criticizing the higher-end weaponry given to Ukraine for free, yet he is expending that exact same high-end inventory in Iran. From a fiscal responsibility standpoint, he isn't saving money. He is simply changing the cost center from Eastern Europe to the Persian Gulf. We need to talk about the Patriot interceptor bottleneck. While the president claims he can fight forever wars with his current munitions, the professionals in the U.S. military know the real numbers. The Gulf Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, rely almost exclusively on U.S.-made Patriot systems to protect their oil refineries and cities from Iranian retaliation. As an auditor, I look at the utilization rate. If Iran uses saturation tactics, launching hundreds of cheap drones and older missiles to force the deployment of Patriots, they are forcing a liquidity crisis in the defense chain. We've seen Saudi refineries hit already. Each successful hit is proof that the air defense ledger is being overwhelmed. You cannot maintain air dominance if your stock on hand of interceptors is being diverted to 2 or 3 different fronts simultaneously. Zelensky's concern isn't just political. It's a direct response to the fact that the U.S. cannot produce these missiles fast enough to cover both the Middle East and the Russian front. Where does this leave the negotiations to end the Russia-Ukraine war? They were supposed to happen this week, but they are now effectively in limbo. As a CPA, I see this as a policy freeze. The American political bandwidth and military resources are being consumed by the fallout in Iran. But here's the cynical truth. The talks weren't really going anywhere to begin with. Russia is still in a maximalist position, refusing to concede the Donbass or discuss security guarantees. If anything, the The war in the Middle East has alleviated the pressure on Putin. He no longer has the world's full attention. He can continue his war of attrition while Washington is distracted by a war of choice in Iran. This isn't just a diversion of missiles. It's a diversion of the diplomatic capital needed to prevent a wider European collapse. We are living in a world shaped by what analysts call the unpredictability surcharge. Every NATO leader I've audited in the recent news cycles is scrambling to react to a U.S. foreign policy that changes by the hour. Endorsing the strikes in Iran is a survival tactic for European capitals. They don't want to antagonize Trump because they are terrified he will follow through on his threats to abandon Ukraine or even pull out of NATO. But transatlantic unity is being built on fear, not on a shared strategic ledger. The Europeans are stepping up their own defense spending, not because they want to, but because they realize the U.S. insurance policy is no longer reliable. They see a president who calls himself the candidate of peace while launching the most aggressive military campaign since the 2003 Iraq invasion. The final audit of the U.S. military position in March 2026 shows a nation that is strategically over-leveraged. Trump's claim of unlimited weapons is a marketing slogan, not a financial reality. The burn rate of interceptors in the Middle East is creating a vacuum in Europe, and the oil dividend is funding the very enemy Putin that these weapons were meant to deter. The P.T. Barnum in this story might not be who Trump thinks it is. As an accountant, I know that you can't print missiles as easily as you print money. Eventually, the inventory runs out, and the cost of aggression becomes a debt that the American taxpayer and the global alliance can no longer pay. But I want to hear from you. Do you believe the U.S. has unlimited weapons, or are we seeing the beginning of a supply chain collapse? Is Trump's insult to Zelensky a sign of a new strategy, or just another diversion from the chaos in the Gulf? Let me know in the comments below. Your voice is the only audit that matters. I'm Camilo Motato, Certified Public Accountant for Thu News. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute deep dive into the numbers of war. Subscribe, stay informed, and stay safe.